My sister is severely autistic, and I hate her for turning my life into a living nightmare. I hate her. I know that's wrong, but it doesn't feel like it. Ever since my sister was born, it's like I vanished from my parents' radar. I was 6, excited to be a big sister, but that excitement faded fast. The shift was a gradual but undeniable change. I was suddenly moving into the basement because my sister needed to be closer to my parents. I felt hurt. The basement was creepy and cold, and I missed the warmth of being near them. Nights down there were long and lonely. I'd hear the rest of the family upstairs and feel cut off. She was more like an afterthought than a daughter. Losing my toys to her was another blow. She didn't mean to break them, but it happened all the time. I remember trying to explain to my parents how it made me feel. I was hoping for a bit of sympathy, maybe even justice. But all I got was, "She's younger, she doesn't understand. You're the big sister, you should be more understanding." It felt so unfair. Those toys were my escape. Seeing them broken without anyone caring enough to address it just made me feel more invisible. The MacBook incident was the last straw. School had given it to me because I'd been doing really well, and then one day, it was just destroyed. My school was mad at me for being careless, and my parents just added to the blame. No one stopped to consider it wasn't actually my fault. I was furious and hurt, but mostly I felt alone in dealing with the mess. It wasn't just about a laptop, it was about feeling like nobody had my back. It can be tough trying to balance being a sister and having a life. I love my sister, but it often feels like my parents forget I'm still a kid too. Whenever she needs something, I have to drop everything, whether I'm studying, hanging out, or even trying to catch a break. It's like I'm on call 24/7. I couldn't remember the last time I'd hung out with friends without constantly checking my phone, worried I'd miss a call from home needing me to. My life felt like it was on a perpetual pause, always waiting for the next crisis or the next demand for help. The day I decided to go watch was the day I finally made a change. I was really excited about the new Spider-Man movie. It had been ages since I'd made plans just for my own enjoyment. My friend Jake had been talking about it for weeks and his excitement was contagious. I needed that break. A couple of hours where I could just be a teenager, not a caretaker. So I made a decision. I decided to turn my phone off for the duration of the movie to enjoy the experience without worrying about anything else. When I left the theater and turned my phone back on, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. There were so many missed calls and texts. I immediately called home. The joy from the movie was quickly replaced by a sense of disappointment. Ring. When my mum picked up, she was really angry. "Where have you been? We needed you an hour ago." I could barely get a word in. I rushed home feeling guilty but also kind of angry. "You just decided to disappear to watch a movie." My dad was really angry. He was speaking over my sister's background noises, as if going to the movies was some kind of crime. I tried to explain that I just wanted a break and that I just wanted a couple of hours to myself, but it fell on deaf ears. It didn't matter. My mom said that responsibilities here are more important than a movie. She grounded me and called me irresponsible for going to see a movie. She said I should be sitting in my room afterward. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about the movie. It was about feeling stuck. I get it. My sister needs me. But sometimes I just want to do something normal, without feeling guilty or getting into trouble for it. Being 18 and feeling like you're not allowed to have your own life is tough. It was about feeling trapped in a role I never chose. About longing for a piece of normalcy in a life that felt anything but normal. I loved my sister deeply, but in that moment, I couldn't help but feel robbed of the simple teenage experiences of friendships and carefree moments. Living in my house, it feels like I'm trapped in a loop where everything revolves around my sister and her needs. Don't get me wrong, I understand. She needs a lot of care, and I want to be there for her. Sometimes it feels like I'm just another item on the family's to-do list. Help your sister, make sure she's okay. They are always asking me to help with her, and it's exhausting. I feel more like an extra hand. It's like I'm invisible unless they need something for her. This feeling of being a slave in my own home is suffocating. I've been carrying this weight around for a while now. It's made me question my own worth. I feel like I'm more of an extra hand around the house than an actual member of the family. Then there was this one week that felt like it could be different. I had been chosen to give a speech at a school event. I felt like that recognition lit a spark in me. I worked hard on it. I gave the speech, pouring my thoughts and feelings into every word. My parents said they'd be there to watch me for the first time in a long time, and I felt valued finally. I worked on my speech every night, imagining looking into the crowd and seeing my parents there, maybe even catching them. I was excited and proud, like a beacon of light in my usual daily routine. I thought this time things would be different, but they weren't. My sister was involved in the mix, and it seemed like my parents blamed her for the situation. I was about to start my speech and didn't see them. I was really disappointed. I kept going though. My voice was shaking and my hands were trembling. I cried. I was upset about the speech, but also about all the times I felt ignored. I made it through the speech and people clapped, but it felt empty. On the way home, I couldn't stop crying. I didn't want to make a big deal about missing the speech, but it just hit me hard. It felt like a reminder that no matter what happens with me, it'll always be secondary. Walking home, all I could think was how this pattern seems like it's never going to end. Talking about colleges with my dad was something I'd been looking forward to. It started off pretty normal. I was excited, you know. It felt like we were focusing on my future and something that was about me. I was getting into the idea that college was my chance to get out and do my own thing away from all the chaos at home. We were looking at some brochures and talking about majors and campuses. It was the closest to I'd been accepted a long time ago, but then my dad made that joke about picking a high-paying major so I'd be set to take care of my sister when they're gone. He laughed, thinking it was just a light-hearted comment, but it hit me hard. All my bottled-up feelings just exploded. I lost it, I couldn't hold back. I couldn't take it in anymore. I started crying and yelling at him, telling him how unfair it was that my entire life was expected to revolve around being my sister's caretaker. I was finally letting it all out, every bit of resentment, every moment of feeling overlooked and undervalued. I was trying to make him see how much I'd had to give up, how everything. It always comes back to what my sister needs, but they didn't understand. My parents just stood there, staring at me like I was speaking another language, watching me lose it. They didn't offer any comfort or apologies. It was like they couldn't understand why I was so upset over a joke. When I realized they weren't going to hear me out, I went to my room, closed the door, and I've been here ever since. I've been in there for hours and they haven't even bothered to check on me. Not a knock, not a word, nothing. It's like my outburst didn't matter to them. It's so lonely sitting here. It's frustrating to realize that my feelings don't matter to them. I'm trapped in this role they've set for me, and I feel like I'm not being seen as more than just a future caretaker for my sister. Am I wrong for wanting more than this? It feels like no matter what I do, they don't care about my life. I'm nothing to them. I'm just an insurance policy for my sister. After hours turned into days and then weeks, with no word from my parents, something in me clicked. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something I realized I needed to change things. It wasn't just about getting away for a bit. I needed some space to figure out my own stuff without always being pulled back into the same old situation. I thought of the one person who'd always seemed to understand me, my grandpa. I didn't make a big plan. I just packed some essentials into a backpack. One night, I left. I texted him I was coming over, half expecting him to talk me out of it or to call my parents, but he didn't. He just texted back, "Doors open." Staying with Grandpa has been eye-opening. It's not like every moment has been some deep heart-to-heart, but it's just calm here. He lets me be. We've talked. We've been talking about college, what I might want to do, and it's the first time in a while I've been able to think about my future without feeling guilty or stressed. He's been really supportive, encouraging me to think about what I want, not what I feel obligated to do. It's strange, but in just a week here, I felt more like myself than I have in years. We've had meals together, watched some old movies and he's shared stories about when he was my age. It's been nice, simple and kind of freeing. I've even started researching colleges again, this time looking at programs I'm actually interested in, not just ones that might make enough money to take care of my sister in the future. Being with Grandpa has given me a glimpse of what that might look like, and it's something I want to hold onto. Wow, thank you for all the support and love that you guys have given me. I never expected this post to reach so many people. Thank you all. After thinking about it for these past few hours, you are right that I don't despise my sister. It's not her fault that she was born the way she is. My parents came to talk to me a while after my breakdown, but I was unable to bring myself to talk to them and only cried and I've asked them to leave. They've made arrangements with my grandfather for me to stay with him for the time being. My parents want to talk to me, but we've decided it's best I leave for now to have some space and time to collect myself. We'll be sitting down and talking later this week about this issue. Thanks again for the love and support through this. I started by telling my grandpa the story of why I broke down the way I did. To be honest, when I finally spilled everything to Grandpa, his reaction was way more intense than I expected. I mean, I knew I told him everything that had been going on at home. I've basically been my sister's full-time caregiver on top of everything else. Then, that day, my dad made a joke about college and taking care of her forever. Grandpa was seriously upset, especially when he found out that my sister was supposed to have professional help that she wasn't getting. He said a lot of stuff. He told me some things that I don't feel comfortable repeating here. But in essence, my sister is my parents were ignoring the fact that my sister was supposed to be getting care from a professional. He said that it wasn't right or safe for me to be in that position, especially with how things were with my sister. He couldn't believe that my parents were putting all this on me and that they'd kept so much from the rest of the family. He was also really mad about the whole movie incident, saying it was the last straw that showed how unfairly I was being treated. Grandpa's pretty laid back most of the time, so seeing him this mad was kind of a big deal. He told me straight. He said I shouldn't talk to my parents unless he was there, which was a relief. He said he'd talk to them first, sort everything out and be there with me for any conversations in the future. But it wasn't just Grandpa. Over the next few days, I heard from aunts, uncles, cousins, you name it. They were all checking in and making sure I was okay. They were all just as shocked as Grandpa was. It turns out my parents had been telling everyone they had a professional caregiver for my sister and even taking money from the family to pay for it. But that caregiver never showed up. It's been a rough week. Everyone's pretty upset about being lied to, especially about something so serious. It's strange but nice getting encouraged to spend more time with my friends or just relax and do whatever I want. I haven't really done that in a long time. It seems like he's on a mission to help me get back some of the things I've been missing out on. It's not just him. My aunts and uncles have been really supportive too. They've been around a lot this week, checking in, bringing over food, just talking and actually listening. It's like they're making a big effort to show they care and to make sure I don't feel alone in this. It's pretty overwhelming, but in a good way. For the first time in what feels like ages, I'm not just the sister or the caretaker. I'm just me, and that feels really good. The talk with my parents on Saturday night was a disaster. I went in hoping maybe we could start fixing things, but it fell apart even more. They actually admitted to a bunch of stuff so messed up that I can't even bring myself to type it out here. The kicker is that not a single sorry came out of their mouths. Instead, they doubled down, saying I was pretty. I was born to be my sister's caretaker. That's what my dad said. My whole purpose was just about taking care of her. I couldn't keep it together. I'd been getting a lot of support from the rest of the family. I called them out on everything. I asked them about the lies about the caretaker. I also asked about the money they were supposedly spending on it. But it turned out that they weren't spending as much as they said. They just dodged and made excuses. By the end of the talk, things were even worse than before. It felt like hitting a brick wall. I couldn't get through. I'd gone into that conversation with a glimmer of hope that we could resolve things, but I left feeling like that opportunity was completely lost. After that difficult conversation with my parents, I decided to take a step back. I've had a long chat with Grandpa and my uncle, and we've agreed that it's best if I don't go back. We all agreed it'd be best if I didn't go back. Today's the day. I'm moving out to live with Grandpa. It feels weird, making this huge change. But it also feels right. Like I finally have some control over my life again. I've also decided I'm leaving the state for I'm going to college once I've finished high school. Just the thought of starting fresh somewhere new is kind of thrilling. My aunt is being really supportive. She's going to start sending the money she used to give to my dad for my sister's care directly to me. I guess it's going to be my college fund now. My parents have called a couple of times since that night. They just wanted to know when I was planning to come back home. It's like they are not even trying. I know this is going to be a big change, and I'm a little scared, but at the same time I feel like a weight has been lifted. I'm finally making decisions for myself, and it's a really freeing feeling. Today's just the start of, I suppose, it's something new. Deciding not to go back to my parents was tough. I have to be honest, there's this uneasy feeling in my stomach. But I think it'll fade with time. The support I've been getting from the rest of my family has been unreal. It's weird, even though I've made it's a big decision, and it's great to have all their love and support. It makes the whole situation a bit easier to handle. But, to be honest, I've pretty much lost my parents through all this. That realization hits hard. It's a lot to process. Sometimes I catch myself wishing things could have been different. But through all the mess, I've come to see something really important. I don't hate my sister. That anger I thought I felt towards her was misplaced. She's not the one to blame for how our parents chose to handle things. I love her more than I can say. It was wrong of me to blame her for something she had no control over. I hope I can make it right someday. For now, though, I need to leave. I need to find my own way and figure out who I am outside of this whole situation. It's going to be a journey, but I'm ready for it. Edit, thank you all so much. I wish I could respond to every single one of you, but my lunch only lasts so long. I'll update tonight on how the move out went. Until then, thank you all. I want to say that your support has been amazing, and your kindness means more to me. Moving out was a bigger deal than anyone could have imagined. My grandpa and uncle were there for me every step of the way, helping me pack up my life into boxes and bags. We took everything that meant something to me, including my birth certificate and social security card. It felt official, like I was collecting pieces of my old life to start a new one. My parents were pretty silent the whole time. My dad left with my sister not long after I got there, leaving just my mom to watch us pack. She didn't say much, just. She was there in the background, but it was awkward and tense. Then, as we were about to leave, she finally broke down. She said she loved me and that she'd miss me. After days of silence, those words hit me differently. I hugged her and said goodbye. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. In my new room at Grandpa's house, I keep replaying that moment. Did she mean what she said after everything? It's hard to know for sure, but I want to believe she did. Right now, all I can do is focus on what's ahead. Maybe with time, my parents and I can find a way back to each other.